Most engines don't fail suddenly. They fail quietly over time, through wear that builds up long before anything feels wrong. For decades, engines were designed with wider tolerances. They ran hotter, dirtier, louder, but they survived abuse. Missed oil changes, poor fuel, hard driving, they forgave mistakes. Modern engines don't. Today's engines are engineered for efficiency, emissions compliance, and low ownership costs on paper, not long-term durability in real-world use. They operate with tighter tolerances, thinner oils, and higher temperatures, which leaves far less margin for error. On the surface, this looks like progress, better fuel economy, lower emissions, quieter operation, but underneath, it creates a fragile balance. When that balance is disrupted, even slightly, wear accelerates faster than most owners realize. This is where many drivers get it wrong. If the car feels smooth, if no warning lights are on, if maintenance follows the owner's manual, the engine must be healthy. In reality, many engines are already wearing themselves out internally while everything still feels normal. Bearings slowly lose protection, timing components begin to stretch, oil breaks down faster than expected, carbon builds up in areas the owner will never see. By the time symptoms appear, the damage isn't starting, it's finishing. That's why so many modern engines fail at mileage older cars used to pass without hesitation. Not because drivers are careless, but because the rules have changed and no one explains that clearly. Manufacturers optimize maintenance schedules for warranty coverage and marketing appeal, not for maximum engine life. Long service intervals look good in advertisements. Low ownership cost sells cars. But the long-term consequences almost always land on the second or third owner. This creates a dangerous illusion. Drivers believe they're doing everything right, while habits that seem harmless quietly shorten engine life year after year. This isn't about extreme neglect, it's about normal ownership, the kind of driving most people do. The routines no one questions, the advice that sounds reasonable but doesn't hold up over time. Because when engines fail today, it's rarely one big mistake. It's small habits, repeated thousands of times, slowly stripping away the engine's ability to protect itself. And the first habit on this list affects cars that barely get driven at all. Most engine damage doesn't come from abuse. It comes from habits that feel responsible. Habits owners repeat every day, believing they're protecting the car, when in reality, they're slowly wearing it down. Short trips are a perfect example. Cars that are barely driven often suffer more internal damage than cars that see regular use, and the reason is temperature. When an engine starts cold, fuel doesn't burn completely. Moisture builds up inside the crankcase. Oil is thicker and slower to circulate. Short trips don't give the engine enough time to reach full operating temperature. Fuel dilution stays trapped in the oil. Moisture never burns off. Contaminants accumulate. On the outside, everything feels normal. The engine sounds fine. No warning lights appear. But internally, lubrication quality slowly collapses. Over time, bearings lose their protective film. Internal corrosion begins. Sludge forms in areas the owner will never see. This damage builds quietly, especially in cars used for errands, short commutes, or infrequent drives. And this problem is made worse by extended idling. Many drivers believe idling is gentle, no movement, no load, no stress. But idling provides poor oil pressure and incomplete combustion. Fuel washes past the piston rings. Carbon begins to accumulate. Modern engines are especially vulnerable to this. They are designed to operate under load, not sit motionless. Excessive idling leads to buildup in intake systems, piston rings, and valves. Over time, engines that idle frequently lose efficiency and compression without ever giving a clear warning. Then there is a habit manufacturers rarely explain honestly: trusting so-called lifetime fluids. The word lifetime sounds reassuring, but it's intentionally vague. Lifetime of the fluid, lifetime of the component, lifetime of the warranty. Every fluid in a car degrades with heat and time. Additives break down. Contaminants accumulate. When fluids aren't serviced, internal wear increases quietly. Metal particles circulate. Cooling efficiency drops. By the time symptoms appear, the damage has already spread. This habit alone is responsible for countless early engine and transmission failures that are later blamed on the driver instead of the design. Another mistake even careful owners make is extending oil change intervals. Modern engines run hotter and tighter than older designs, which make them far less forgiving of degraded oil. Oil doesn't just lubricate, it cools, cleans, and protects internal components. When oil breaks down, that protection fades long before a warning ever appears. Timing components stretch, turbo bearings overheat, sludge forms in narrow oil passages. Engines don't wear out because they get old, they wear out because oil stops doing its job. Many engines that follow manufacturer-recommended intervals still fail early because those intervals prioritize cost and marketing, not maximum lifespan. That leads to another habit owners normalize: oil consumption. Topping off oil feels responsible. The engine keeps running, so the problem feels managed. But oil loss usually signals internal wear that's already underway: worn piston rings, valve seal degradation, crankcase ventilation issues. Each top-off delays diagnosis while wear accelerates. Carbon builds up, compression drops, efficiency collapses. By the time performance loss is noticeable, the engine is already near the end of its useful life. All of these habits share one thing in common: they don't feel dangerous, they feel reasonable. That's why engines fail quietly instead of catastrophically. Small compromises, repeated thousands of times, slowly stripping away the engine's ability to protect itself. And now we reach a belief that sounds logical, but often does more harm than good: driving gently all the time. Many owners take pride in light throttle and low engine speed, believing they're extending engine life. But engines need occasional load to stay healthy. Light driving never fully seats piston rings. Carbon never gets burned away. Internal components never experience proper pressure balance. Over time, engines driven too gently develop chronic buildup, reduced compression, and declining efficiency. Some modern engines fail early not because they were pushed too hard, but because they were never used properly. And the next habit doesn't even come from the driver, it's built into the vehicle itself. Before we move on, think about this. Which of these habits sounded harmless to you before hearing this explanation? Drop your experience in the comments, because what comes next explains why so many engine failures feel sudden even when maintenance appears perfect. There's a mistake that quietly destroys modern engines, and almost every careful owner makes it. It feels responsible, it feels safe, and because nothing breaks immediately, it goes unnoticed for years. This mistake is driving your car too gently, for too long, without ever letting the engine properly work. Most owners believe that keeping RPMs low, accelerating slowly, and avoiding any form of strain is the key to long engine life. On the surface, that logic makes sense. Less stress should mean less wear. But modern engines don't fail because they're used. They fail because they're used incorrectly. Today's engines are built with extremely tight tolerances. They depend on consistent operating temperatures, proper pressure, and occasional load to stay healthy internally. When a car spends most of its life doing short trips, idling, or cruising gently at low RPM, the engine rarely reaches the conditions needed to stay clean. Moisture from combustion never fully evaporates. Fuel dilution seeps into the oil. Carbon begins forming on intake valves, piston rings, and combustion chambers. Over time, piston rings lose their ability to seal. Compression slowly drops. Oil consumption begins to rise, and the engine that was protected starts aging faster than expected. This is why many low-mileage, city-driven vehicles develop engine problems earlier than high-mileage highway cars. Fleet vehicles, taxis, and long-distance commuters often last longer, not because they're newer or better maintained, but because they operate under stable temperatures and consistent load. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Modern engines are designed to be exercised, not abused, not redlined constantly, but used through their full operating range. Occasional higher RPM, proper warm-up, and moderate engine load help keep piston rings free, prevent carbon buildup, and maintain oil control. Never letting an engine work is like never moving a joint. It doesn't preserve it, it weakens it. If your car only ever sees light throttle, short drives, and gentle cruising, you're not extending its life. You're slowly accelerating internal wear without realizing it. And the most dangerous part is that the engine will still feel fine, right up until the damage becomes expensive. So here's a simple question. Do you actually let your engine work once in a while? Or do you spend every drive protecting it from doing the job it was built to do? Drop your answer in the comments, because the next part reveals a problem most drivers can't control, no matter how well they drive. Even if you drive correctly, maintain your car well, and avoid every bad habit we've discussed, there's still one factor quietly working against long engine life. And it's something you didn't design, choose, or approve. It's the software running your car. Modern vehicles are no longer purely mechanical machines. They're systems controlled by code. Throttle response, fuel mapping, warm-up behavior, cylinder activation, transmission shifting, and start-stop systems are all dictated by software written to meet emission standards and fuel economy targets, not long-term durability. Start-stop systems shut engines off dozens of times during a single drive. Each restart happens before oil pressure fully stabilizes, increasing wear on bearings and timing components over time. Cylinder deactivation systems create uneven temperatures inside the engine block, stressing lifters, rings, and oil passages. Ultra-lean fuel mapping raises combustion temperatures, increasing carbon buildup and knock sensitivity. None of this feels dramatic in the moment. The car still drives smoothly, there are no warning lights, but the cumulative effect is real. Manufacturers design engines to survive the warranty period reliably, not necessarily to last 400,000 miles without internal stress. This is why two identical cars with identical maintenance records can have completely different outcomes. One reaches 300,000 miles without major issues. The other develops oil consumption, misfires, or timing problems far earlier, even though the owner did everything right. Longevity today isn't about blindly following the owner's manual. It's about understanding where modern engineering prioritizes compliance and efficiency over lifespan, and then adjusting your habits to compensate for those decisions. You can't rewrite the software, but you can drive in a way that reduces its long-term impact. And once you understand how modern engines are actually compromised, you stop blaming bad luck, mileage, or age. You start seeing engine failure for what it really is, a predictable outcome of hidden design choices and everyday habits combining over time. And now that you know what's working against your engine, you're in a position most owners never reach: awareness. That alone can be the difference between an engine that dies early and one that quietly outlives expectations.